Can we make wine from tea? Well, you know what? People have been making wine from tea for a long time. So the answer is yes. But I've never done it. I've never tasted it. Have you ever had wine tea? I mean, I'd only heard of it in like rumor and myth. It wasn't like a thing, you know?
The closest I could say I've had would be our hibiscus berry
we've
tea.
done a couple of tea-ish things. And we've put tea in wine.
That was mead, though.
Yeah, we made a mead. We've put tea in wines and meads, but we've never actually used it as the main flavoring in a wine. And this actually is a really old style of wine. It's a country wine, which means people made it at home. It was never really made commercially. Nobody ever published a true tea wine. Although a doctor, I think it was in the 1800s, promoted this as a healthy wine. Like it was probiotic and all that, although he didn't use the words probiotic. Now, this is not to be confused with kombucha. Kombucha is a whole different thing and usually not very alcoholic. I'm expecting this to come out at about 12%. So if you drink this like most people drink kombucha, you'll know the difference very, very quickly. Kombucha is a different thing. It's a SCOBY, not really yeast, which is more bacteria than yeast. And they're different animals altogether. Get it? Different animals? Yeah. Anyway, so what we're going to do is I took 6 tea bags, put it in some hot water. That's about 3/4, almost a gallon of water, because I know that this fermenter won't hold exactly a gallon because I want to only fill to about here. So I didn't overfill this. I let that steep for about 10 minutes. I didn't want to get the real bitter flavors. I've seen some people where they let it go for like an hour. That scared me a little bit. I didn't want that much in there. And I'm assuming I'm going to use about 2¼ pounds of sugar. That's what I'm going to put in there, and then we'll measure it. And just to be completely backwards and backwoods and do it the old-fashioned way, we're using baker's yeast. We're using baker's yeast. That's right, Fleischmann's active dry yeast. Why am I doing that? Well, if you think about it, everything here you can get in a grocery store. On purpose. I'm trying to make this a beginner's wine, something maybe easy for you to get into. We are going to use a real fermenter, and we are going to use an airlock, and we are going to take measurements. But those things aren't absolutely necessary. If you use the recipe that we're giving you, the amounts that we give you, you can recreate this, and it should come out just fine. Now, some things that I've heard about this are, it tastes like less than good for about 6 months. After that, it goes through a magical transformation. I'm betting you it's some sort of a malolactic firm, but I don't really know that for a fact. And apparently it tastes wonderful. People have described it as fruity, as in tastes like a fruit wine. That I need to see to believe. I just don't understand. But apparently it was a very popular way to make wine until grapes became even more popular, probably because they were cheaper, and because you have to add so much sugar for this, it probably made it where the grapes were cheaper than buying the sugar. So it's probably an economic factor as to we have 2 funnels. One of them is the metal one that I'm going to use for pouring the liquid, and the other one is the plastic one that I'm going to use for pouring the sugar, because it was sanitized earlier and is now dry. You do not want to pour sugar using a wet funnel. Trust me. Now, could I just pour the sugar in first? Of course I could, but that would be the easy way, and I never do things the easy way. So I'm just going to pour my tea right into the fermenter. Splashing is encouraged. Spilling is not, which I haven't done yet. Saving it for the end. That's how we get you guys to watch the whole video. Okay, seems like I planned out the amount of tea just about right. Now this I let come back to pretty much room temperature. It's about 90 degrees or so, so a little more than room temperature, but close enough. Normally, when I use a juice, I like to take a measurement of it. I'm fairly certain this does not have any sugars in it, because it's just tea.
Now, if you're curious of what type of tea we used PG Tips, and we'll put a link in the description below in case you want to try the exact same type of tea.
Now, why did we use PG Tips? Because it's what we had, and it's what we like. I might, in the future, try this with different types of teas, like Earl Grey comes to mind as one that might be really nice. But I wanted to see if the tea wine itself was any good, if it was something that we would enjoy. And we're going to pour in 2.2 Let me just talk around the funnel. 2.25 pounds of sugar. Now, why 2.25 pounds? Well, it's because I know from in the past, using that particular yeast, it goes to around 11.8 to 12%. I also know that we like things with about 20 points over neutral gravity of sweetness. So I did some calculations, and because we know that sugar is 0.046 gravity per pound in a gallon of must, 2.25 was pretty much the right number. It might be just a little bit low, but I'd rather it be a little bit low and add more sweetener down the line than way too sweet and it just won't ferment any further. And now I'm stuck with an overly sweet wine. So undershoot just a little bit. Anyway, here we go. 2.25 pounds, which is 2 pounds, 4 ounces. You may have noticed after putting in our 2 pounds, 4 ounces of sugar, how much higher the liquid has gone. That has me mildly concerned, I'll be honest. I probably should have used a little bit less liquid or put in the liquid halfway, then put the sugar in and then fill the rest. But, you know, shoulda, woulda, coulda. There's a lot of ways I could have done this differently, and I didn't. So you know what? I'm just going to move forward. I also made this harder on myself this way because now I have to shake all this up. But I do have a solid bung, which I'm just going to stick in there, and just get in there. And I'm just going to shake the bejesus out of it. The reason I say this makes it harder is because I don't have as much to shake. You know, there's a lot of liquid here. So at this point, we probably could put this video on our Cook's channel and just call it How to Make Sweet Tea. When you're shaking up things with sugar in it, it's really easy to know when you're done. Just let it sit for a minute. And if anything falls to the bottom, you know you're not done. Like, I'm close. And general rule of thumb, when you think you're done mixing, go another minute or two. You basically can't overmix, but you can undermix. Okay, now that it's all mixed, what I want to do is take this bung out, and I'm going to add my yeast. I'll just set it there for a moment. And I'm going to use about a teaspoon of yeast. The exact amount isn't that crucial, but I am going to use my dry funnel because it's so much easier. Like I said, I'm using bread yeast because it's convenient, it's easy. I know right now it might not be that easy for people to get. And I'm using, this is a big spoon, but probably close to a teaspoon, maybe half a teaspoon. Don't need that much, really. Yeah, I didn't even use the whole amount I had. I'm just going to give it another quick couple of shakes, just to disperse that yeast that for some reason really likes to stick in the necks of bottles. Yeah, really clumped together. That's unusual. I've never noticed it do that before. Oh well, learn something new every day. Okay, now I'm going to take a reading to see what our original gravity is and find out what our potential could be. 1.102. I am actually pretty okay with that number. That gives me something in the range of 13 to 14%, which, if we know this will probably stop around 12, is just about perfect to be a little bit sweet. I have mentioned that I like sweet wine, right? So does Derek. Right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to speak for you.
I was nodding.
Oh, you were nodding. I couldn't see.
The nod.
So at this point, we now have a tea wine must. Okay, from this point forward, it's basically wine. Okay, it's already started the process just a little bit. So all I'm going to do is take an airlock and a bung, stick it in there, take my little notes that I did over here. You do take notes on this stuff, right? Right? And I'm going to tape it to the side. My tape is over there, so I'd have to get up and I'd look all weird on camera. Let's just let this go for a couple of days and see what it looks like.
We do have some plans in the future that we might take part of this and flavor it, but we're unsure of how to do that. If you have a suggestion of what type of flavors you think would be nice with a tea wine, please leave that in the comments below.
All right, so here we are just 2 days into fermentation, and check out that airlock activity. That's pretty cool. Now, that is actually slowed down. This guy was super active within a couple hours. Look at how much foam there is at the top. You can see some of that dried krausen, but if you look closer, it's all the way up the top. Yep, all the way up to there. And if we go to the side here, you can probably see the little bubbles. Look at all those bubbles coming up. We put a blow-off tube on this guy within 2 hours of making it, and it never really went all the way, but it came really, really close. So what do I want to do now? I just want to give this a swirl. All right, so I'm just going to give this a swirl, and you're going to see that airlock go nuts when I do. All I'm doing is degassing it a bit and getting everything just swirled up. Oh, look at that. It's just going to town. And I'll do that a few times and then let it sit for, probably another couple weeks before we see you again. But let me do this. Yeah, I'll probably do this 3 or 4 or 5 times today just to get some of that gas out. This is pretty awesome for a really early ferment. And like I say, we'll see you in about 2 weeks. As always, guys, thanks for watching and have a great day.